We are going to continue talking about summarizing this week, but we're going to go back to summarizing with fiction. And what we're going to do a little bit differently is instead of using beginning, middle, and end, we're going to summarize using a plot diagram. Now, if you remember, this should sound familiar because we've talked about plot diagrams before. So let's try to refresh our memories about what plot diagrams are. The first element of a plot diagram is an exposition. Next is the rising action. Then the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. So what do all of these things actually mean? Do you remember? If not, I'm going to refresh your memory a little bit. So first, the exposition introduces the characters, describes the setting, and establishes the problem in the story. Rising action is when the suspense builds and the problem gets worse and becomes more complicated. The climax is the turning point in the story. It's usually the most exciting part and the part that makes the reader want to keep reading. Falling action. What is falling action? That's when those are the events that happen after the climax that lead to the resolution or the ending to the story. And finally, what is our resolution? Our resolution is the outcome of the story. It's how things end up or turns out for the characters. So this is how we will summarize with a plot diagram. We will be using this graphic organizer. So let's put it to use. First, we're going to do an I do. And we are going to summarize using a plot diagram with wonder. And we're going to summarize the section or the chapter entitled Padawan. Padawan was one of the chapters that we read in our read aloud this week. So if you haven't done the read aloud, if you haven't listened to both parts of the read aloud, then you need to stop right now and go and do that first. You will not understand or be able to follow along with anything else that I say right now if you have not listened to the read aloud. So let me say that one more time. If you haven't listened to the read aloud for the week, do not continue. Go back, read the read aloud, and then come back to this point. All right. So we are going to do this. So what was the first thing that happened in this chapter? And that was that Augie comes home from his first day of school, and he's in a bad mood. He cuts off his Padawan braid. So now in the rising action, Via and Dad try to comfort him and ask why he's mad, but that just causes him to become more angry. So the climax, or the most exciting or interesting part, was when Mom comes in to check on Augie. She reads him a book and he begins to cry. So that really was the most interesting part. I thought to myself at that point, I wonder how this is going to end. I need to keep reading. So the falling action, or the things that led us to the end, was that Augie asked Mom why he has to be so ugly, and he continues crying. She tells Augie that he is not ugly and kisses him. And then the resolution, or how the chapter ended, was that Augie apologizes to Mom for being rude to everyone and falls asleep in his mother's arms. So let's put all this into a summary. Augie comes home from his first day of school and is in a bad mood. He cuts off his Padawan braid. Via and Dad try to comfort him and ask why he is mad, but that just causes him to become more angry. Mom comes in and to check on Augie. She reads him a book and he begins to cry. Augie asks Mom why he has to be so ugly and continues crying. She tells Augie that he is not ugly and kisses him. Augie apologizes to Mom for being rude to everyone and falls asleep in his mother's arms. Now, don't you guys think that was a really good summary? We got all the important details, all the important events, and we didn't include anything that wasn't really important. Most importantly, we did not copy word for word from the book. I didn't even have the book up for you guys to see because I didn't want to copy any words at all. And that's the most important part of summarizing, guys. All right, so let's do a we do. And this time for the we do, we are actually going to look at wonder again, but we're going to talk about the chapter called Cheese Touch. So let's go back and try to remember, what was Cheese Touch about? There we go. The exposition, or the part that introduced what the problem was. Augie is in science class. During a science experiment, no one wants to sit near Augie. Tristan and Nino finally gather around the table near Augie after prompted to by the teacher. So the climax. What was the climax? What was the most exciting part, the most important part? When Augie's hand accidentally touches Tristan's, Tristan jumps away, overreacting and causing the entire class's experiments to go tumbling to the floor. What was the falling action? What led us to the end of the story and to our resolution? Tristan runs to the sink to wash his hand, and Mrs. Adanabi reprimands him. And finally, how did everything end up? Augie realizes that there is a game being played amongst his peers at school. The kids at Beecher Prep have to avoid touching him. So again, we put this all into a summary, and it's everything that we just said. Augie is in science class. During a science experiment, no one wants to sit near Augie. Tristan and Nino finally gather around the table next to Augie after being prompted to by the teacher. When Augie's hand accidentally touches Tristan's, Tristan jumps away, overreacting and causing the entire class's experiments to go tumbling to the floor. Tristan runs to the sink to wash his hand, and Mrs. Adanabi reprimands him. Augie realizes that there is a game being played amongst his peers at school. The kids at Beecher Prep have to avoid touching him. And that's it. So now you guys are going to do the you do, and you're going to do the you do using the Bleeding Scream chapter of Wonder. And I am going to put this part of the book or this chapter on Class Dojo so that you can have it for your reference.